Welcome to another episode of Champions of Inspiration. I'm your host, Scott Schilling. Today we have Rick Leslie with us. Rick is a dynamic professional with over 20 years of experience leading sales operations, revenue growth, marketing, talent, and customer success initiatives. He defines and implements strategic growth plans, tactics, and metrics aligned with performance objectives. He uses acumen, leadership, ingenuity, analytical, and negotiation skills to drive impactful outcomes. Rick is adept at recruiting, managing, training, and developing sales talent, along with forging strong partnership alliances with C suite executives, vendors, community partners, and customers. His mission is to empower entrepreneurs with the tools and strategies and connections they all need to succeed in their ventures. Rick, welcome to Champions of Inspiration.
Thanks, Scott. Good to see you.
Gosh, where do we start with all that? So, you are the founder of the sales and marketing department. Tell us a little bit about what that is.
Well, do you have like 3 or 4 hours? I mean,
Absolutely.
it's quite a bit. So, sales and marketing department. It was my brainchild a little over a year ago. Talking, addressing what the real issue is here in not just Texas but America, as far as having and trying to find good talent. When I say good talent, it means boots on the ground, salespeople for your locations, and or trying to find a good marketing company that really cares and that really understands that marketing is not a discretionary budget. It's a real live budget that we need to stick to, but we also need to have results. So our company is about getting results. Yes, we can do KPIs. Yes, we can do a lot of analytics, but really getting butts in the seats in your company, whether it's patients or whether it's customers or whether online or in person. That's really what our whole core is. We do a lot of ancillary things like printing, graphics, promotional products, but our core is making sure we can get people in the seats of our customers.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest key anymore. Business is done through people. And I think we see a resurgence of going back to what some would term old school. Would you agree?
That's horrible. Yes, old school. I did not. I think Scott includes you and I. Old
Pretty mu-
school. I'm pretty sure that's you and I.
yeah, pretty much.
But yes, I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think a big part of it is going back to the the thing that I specialize in, and that is creating and nurturing relationships. And having those relationships help you grow your business because of the service you provide, correct?
That's correct. And I think it's something I learned from you, actually, Scott, about, can I say how many years ago? Long time ago. Um, I think still last decade, not this decade, but about really being relational and not transactional. I'm pretty sure you said that in some major talk you've had somewhere that I watched you. But I took it to heart because there's so many people nowadays, especially in the advent of Google and Bing and all these search engines. It's so impersonal and it's very much just transactional, and you don't get that warm and fuzzy, if you will. And I believe what you talked about, Scott, is transactional is a one-time thing. You do it once and then you're over, and you really don't know the people. You don't really get to know them. And back in the day, if you remember, the milkman days. Maybe Scott, I didn't. I'm not that old, but maybe Scott, you remember.
I do. My uncle drove a milk trunk
There
truck.
you go. So,
Yeah, I do remember actually.
so everybody knew the milkman. Everybody knew the mailman. My grandma used to give the mailman and the UPS driver Christmas gifts. That's how much they knew them. I couldn't tell you my UPS driver's name or my USPS person's name at all. We've gotten so far away from the relational and everything just transactional. It's definitely the time, and it's more and more so almost every day that it's making me realize that relational is the way to go and to be, because if we're going to grow our businesses together, because that's what we're trying to do, is really put a lot of equity in your relation capital, if you will, instead of just getting the sale. Because don't we all, including myself, always want sales, repetitive sales, and not just one-time sales. Because one-time sale for me doesn't really do much, and I don't think for you either, Scott.
No, yeah, you've got to create it again the second time and the third time and the fourth time if you don't have it. It's amazing when you create the relationships and you have those folks coming back. So how does the sales and marketing department specialize in accomplishing that?
Another great question, Scott. You're good at this.
Mhm.
How do we specialize? So we tailor every single one of our customers, whether it's the same franchise or the same type of business. We every one of them is different. So that's a kind of a loaded question. Um, how do we specialize in that? It really depends on the person in front of us, the owner, the CEO, because you know the direction you want your company to go to. You know the direction you want your employees to go. You know the direction that you want your operations staff to go. And obviously, you know what the finances need to be. So we encompass all that wonderful stuff and go, okay, here's what you told me. Here's your bad. What you told me. This is you want your salespeople to sell more. You want the operations to be tidied up. You want the marketing department to be maybe a little more budget conscious. You want your customers to understand exactly what you do instead of having a shotgun approach. You want more of a rifle approach. And I think that's really how we just nail down and we ask a lot of questions. Like the first question I ask if in and with or in I get hired is just so you know, this is probably going to hurt a little bit. The questions I ask you aren't meant to offend you. The questions I ask you aren't meant to hurt you or your business, but I need to know these things. Like, for instance, Scott, is do you still have passion for your business? As a CEO, sometimes it's hard to have passion because the board, especially if it's a board situation, the board wants to take you down that way, and you know you should go that way. So how do you deal with that? And we help customers, and yes, it's sales and marketing, so it's all encompassing. We help customers understand that if you have passion for your company and your business, your mission, you can really go a long way. And how to give that mission or send that mission to your clients and how important that is.
Well, I think a big part of that, and you and I discussed this earlier today, is a lot of people are looking at the innovation of today. And the innovation of today is rather impersonal, quite frankly. You try to dial it up and you try to make it personal, but it truly isn't. People are personal, right? And so they're throwing a lot of money at solutions that worked at one time that really aren't working very well anymore. How do you combat that?
Well, that's actually the easiest part of our job is actually asking a customer. We have several customers spend thousands and thousands of dollars, or they did spend thousands of dollars on certain social platforms. I'll go nameless right now. Um, certain social platforms, and I simply ask them is, what's your return on that? What's your ROI on that? Most, if not all, say they don't know. Or we get two or three customers a month. Well, okay, that's great, but what kind of customers are they? Are they profitable customers? Are they return customers? Are they problematic customers? There's so much behind just the new age social media, whether it's the biggest one now is TikTok. You just don't know. A lot of people just don't know, but spending money because they think they have to. So instead of just spending it again as a shotgun, is taking it and go, okay, what really works in your industry? Or if we want to be pioneers, let's be pioneers. Just know the pioneers were the first ones to get shot, right? So just know that I think I stole that from you too, Scott. So you know, but the pioneers being the first to get shot, you know that you're going to spend probably more money than the next guy. But to have that focus and understand that let's get real results, and that's what the sales and marketing department is all about, is making sure we get real live results, not just results because we're spending a bunch of money. Because that is, as we just said earlier, that's a transaction. It's not a relation.
You know, one of the I know one of your clients, I've had a little exposure to them, and they are directly competing against larger brands,
Right. Much larger
um,
brands.
financially stout in their backing,
That's right.
but with a totally different motive than this
Mhm.
independent that is a franchise. So they're using good quality process and technique, but you've got them actually winning against the big boys. How
Yeah.
you doing that?
Well, I mean, it comes, I hate to keep repeating myself, but it comes down to being part of a community, helping. And I don't care if it's a very large company or a very small company, helping them understand how important it is to be part of the community, be active in the community. I live in Allen, Texas, and I'll tell you, we're very active in this community on purpose because people want to know you care, right? And until you show them how much you care, it's just all cannon fodder. It doesn't matter, right? It's nothing. You have to show them how much you love them, how much you want to be part of the community, how much you want to be part of them. And again, it's just not give me business. It's what can I do to help you? Matter of fact, that's Scott Schilling. That's your edict. What can I do to help you, Rick?
Yeah, very, very much so. Well, it comes from Zig, and you can have everything in life and you want when you help enough other people get what they want.
Right?
You know, especially after the pandemic, you know, you had this separation. I actually had this conversation with somebody earlier when they came out with the social distancing.
Right.
I created a video that day that said I absolutely refuse to social distance. Now I will physical distance if you think that is the appropriate thing to do, but I'm going to up my social game because we are social beings. And I think,
I love that.
unfortunately, not enough people did that. And I don't think it was rocket science. I think it was the way we're built to be. We're built to be social. I think people are recognizing today the need for community even more because they were pulled out of that community. Would you
Right.
agree?
100% agree with that. I mean, pulled out. They were yanked out of it in some situations, depending on where you lived, and forbidden to have any of that social interaction.
Yeah, and I just think that it makes sense to go to more of a and again, old school, we would call it belly to belly, probably not
Yes. You took the words out of my
appropriate
mouth. Yes.
appropriate these days.
Eh,
Uh, how
we
about
both
if
have
we
belly,
call it,
Scott. For you and I, it's appropriate.
yeah, well, how about if it's face to face, right? That
Face to
we
face. I
that
like
we
that.
actually uh, look somebody in the eyes and we actually have conversations with them. So how are you working with your clients to make that happen?
Well, it depends, and again, everything's kind of subjective because of we're dealing with people again, right? So the younger startups, it's definitely more teaching them communication skills on how to, when to, and how much to communicate, right? Do you do it just by Zoom? Do you do it just by texting? No, you actually have to go see your customers, shake their hand, get to know them. And it's just teaching them almost like communication 101, probably what they learned their first or second year of college, but we forget that. And we take a class like that because we have to, not because we want to, right? Especially for introverts. Um, Man, I found some of the best salespeople in the world that are introverts because they understand they need to do this. They may not like it, but they understand the need for it. As social butterflies, extroverts, sometimes they just talk too much. What I like about introverts, they talk enough and then they stop.
Yeah, very much so. Uh, I know, gosh, it was just flashing back to a situation when I was a sales plebe a long time ago, and I went to shake somebody's hand, and he refused to shake my hand, and he said, "I'll shake your hand a year from your now when you're in for the second time." And I said, "Do you work every Tuesday?" He said, "Absolutely." I said, "I will see you at 9 a.m. next Tuesday, and you will shake my hand."
That's funny.
And a week later, I tapped him on the shoulder and I just said, "Shake my hand." And so
I love
It,
it. That's a true deal. I could see that happen, especially back in the yesteryears of our yesteryears.
well, but that's, people somehow have forgotten that people do business with people,
Right.
and we need to be doing business with people. And especially if we're starting something new or we're new to a vicinity, to an area.
Right. And I think, Scott, that also goes to like the training aspect of what we do. You obviously know some trainers very personally um, that help us train some of our salespeople because remember, yes, the sales and marketing department, we have salespeople, but we have more salespeople for our customers than we do directly. So we manage those salespeople. But that training, people like yourself, Scott, just like yourself, and a few others that we know, that training is so impactful that to teach them again, go do what you did. Go next Tuesday, shake their hand, say hi to them, reach out to them in person. They may not want to see you, which that's part of our job. People don't want to see us sometimes. People are busy, especially nowadays. Instead of having one job, they have 10 or 15 different jobs, as we know. But you have that consistency of the communication, then they know you care. Or at least they know you care enough to say hi to them.
Well, I
That's
think that's a big part of it is knowing enough that you care enough that you're there when they need you. You don't have to
right.
be there all the time, but you do need to be there when they need you.
Don't always have commission breath. You don't
Very much
always need to throw up on people and sell your goods. They know why you're there, typically, assuming you got a chance to tell them who you are, what company you represent. But don't always throw up on them. Don't always assume that you're there to sell them. Because sometimes, and Scott, we've had these situations together actually, where people didn't need to be sold; they just needed to be heard
Yeah.
and listened to. And especially in the old business that we were part of, Scott, in the back in the day, a marketing company, that we did a lot of listening. I mean, we had to do a lot of listening because people needed to hear that. And I'm not talking like counseling or anything. I'm just talking they needed a compassionate ear. And sometimes that's what our job is as salespeople. That's what our job is as just being good human beings. Is taking back and listening and go, okay, this person needs me here now, not there. And if they become a customer, if because we're not nothing's 100%, just love on them. And again, show them that you care, and shake their hand when you can. Maybe not the first time you meet them, but shake their hand and just be that person, be that company, represent your company like that. I think it goes a long way. And again, Scotty, that's a lot of training that we've been part of, or that you've trained me, and or through Ziegler's trained us, and just understanding that people will buy from you because they like you. I guarantee you that anybody who listens to this podcast, you're not going to buy from anybody that you don't like. I don't care if it's at a big retail shop or a small mom and pop. You don't like them, you're not going to buy from them. If you do, well, that's odd.
You might do it once and it's probably only on price. It's
That's true too. Well, then that
I
goes
mean,
back to being transactional.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's because it's a transaction. You're just trying to get through something.
Right.
Again, I was just thinking back to some of the situations in the past where, eh, and I think it's interesting because the more podcasts I do, again, and really listening, the fact is people are craving connection. They're
That's great.
craving community.
Yeah, that's very
They
good. I think you're 100% right.
they're not feeling connected with their boss necessarily, right? They're not necessarily they get a job, but they're not necessarily passionate about it. So to grow the passion, you have to have some kind of connection to it. I
That's
was
right.
on a call earlier and I noticed in the background, had never met this person before, but I noticed one of my friend's books sitting up on the credenza. And so I said, "Oh, you got XYZ's book." And they go, "How do you know that?"
Yeah, I know though. Yeah.
Well, but I mean, it made me think, some of the things that we've done for a long time, uh, again, there is knowledge. Knowledge is a wonderful thing, but until knowledge turns to wisdom, and the way knowledge turns to wisdom is through experience. And
Right.
that's the first time it gets to be expertise. To be able to spot a book or even know to look for that book, to look for, in your background, the Los Angeles Dodgers
So you just
logo
saw my
that's behind
Dodgers.
you,
My Dodgers.
the
Um,
behind, that's right.
it's
The
pretty hard to
behind,
miss. So I could turn around. I could turn the camera around and show my books if you'd like to, but
well,
Dodgers are
no, but the point being, there are visual clues in your background
right.
that if somebody was trained to recognize and create commonality and create relationship over, there's plenty of information there to build from
There's a
if
lot.
you know how to build it.
That's right.
But again, I don't think as many people are doing that today, because I don't think anybody has invested the time in training them to do that. And I mean, I think that's a lot of the stuff that I hear you doing with the sales and marketing department with
Right.
people.
And I think it's, yes, it's my company. Yes, it's a mission. Um, but I think it's my duty to do this. We've all questioned jobs we've had, and or question our future, or question our life as we sit today. And I know that I was born to do this. I know that God put me on this earth to help people, and if it's helping them get more business, awesome. I love that. Scott, that's kind of what I just kind of get my vibe from. But if it's helping you as a person, I love that too. You know, just helping people do better and be better. To me, there's no high could ever be better than that.
Yeah, that's really true. I know. I was speaking down in Austin last week and had people come up and say some very nice things. And again, I was sharing that with somebody on an earlier call today, and they go, "How'd that feel?" And I said, "Man, it feels great.
It does.
It feels great when you can help somebody better themselves and or achieve what they're working so hard to achieve."
Right. And I think, Scott, sometimes when they're working hard to achieve, I think that, the whole saying, you can't see the forest for the trees. That's really one of the big things we do. We help our clients see that forest and see that, if it's going through the forest and they just want to get on the other side, to show them that there is another side to this. There's light at the end of the tunnel, if you will. Um, as we all know, we get so busy with everything. I mean, I don't care if you're a CEO of a Fortune 500 company or you're one mom and pop shop. It is hard sometimes to see the other side, and we help them through our marketing and sales efforts to help them look. If we do this, we hire a salesperson or we manage your sales force instead of you. This is what we know we can get instead of, you know, here, let me have your marketing. We're going to put some really nice fancy things, put some nice fancy words, give you some nice KPIs and some analytics, and I hope it works. No, we're in there with their reps or with our reps, with our marketing, and we are understanding every single step of the road. And I call for numbers almost every day. My VP of sales calls for numbers. Our reps call for numbers from our customers and our clients to understand, how do we end today? Do we need to worry about that? Yeah, we do, because I treat it like it's our business. I don't care
Yep.
what client we have. It's our business. I want to know if it's a bad day or we had a couple bad days. Why? Why do we have bad days? And let's analyze that. But really, it's making sure that we have a positive effect on people. And business and more money sometimes, a lot of times, at least for business, it usually has a positive effect, right?
Yeah. Well, again, I was thinking of a couple of your clients that I know that don't have the breadth of knowledge that they probably would like to have,
That's very true.
got into startup businesses, got up into franchises, got up into things where there were systems that they could certainly learn, but they couldn't and weren't able to learn it all immediately before the doors were open. And so now all of a sudden they're in a situation where there's some gaps. So how do you fill the gaps?
But I think first of all, making sure they're willing to do it, right? So a lot of franchisees, entrepreneurs, startups, if they don't have the passion, the time, and willingness, probably not our customer, right? So if they have the willingness to do it, it's to help them through that, especially with us being the experts on this, is helping them baby step everything because, or go for a full board, depending where they're at. But typically is give them information to help them succeed or help them be corrected in a very nice way, if you will. Because I think that as entrepreneurs or a new franchisee, you bit off a lot, you spend a lot of money, and sometimes you're like, after you get the business open, you're like, okay, well, what do I do now? Spend all this money, spend all this time, spend all this effort. Now what do I do now the doors are now going to be open? It's a scary thought. And we just help people process through that and then get them on the other side and then get them to profitability. Does it always happen? No, but most of the time it does.
Yeah. No, I mean that's it. It's really cool because again, I mean, I think a lot of times, especially in franchise situations, and there are many, many great franchise
Some
companies,
amazing franchises out there.
but there are also some that, the best sale they make is the franchise, you know, unfortunately.
I agree with you and no comment.
Yeah,
All I'm
well,
saying,
no, but I'm not calling anybody out, but I'm
right?
just saying, but it's that way in any business, quite frankly.
Anything. That's correct.
There are really great people that follow through and do the stuff and care and do everything, and then those who say they do. And that becomes the difference. And so if you are a heartfelt, caring concern, as a business, you do it differently than other people do it. And I think that's a big part of what the sales and marketing department adds to their clients.
I agree. And it's not about working harder, putting more time in. Matter of fact, one of my clients that you actually know very well, Scott, um, I actually gave him advice of you need to go home, be with your wife, be with your dogs, be with your family. Go home. Nothing more is going to happen. You need to go home and spend some time. And guess what? That business is taking off now. And if that's the one nugget that this client got, then I win. I win
Yeah. Well, and
because
so do they. I mean,
yeah,
because
exactly, lifestyle's better.
yeah, I mean, ultimately they're going to be fresher, more good things are going to
Right.
happen. Their team is going to find themselves to be um, bolstered because they now have greater responsibility. Oh, they got more responsibility, so they're better. Yeah. I mean, people like to show out and do great things, right?
100%, and they like to be appreciated as well. I mean, it's like number one, two, and three have nothing to do with extra money. It has to do with appreciation, loyalty, and I forget the other one. But the fact is that yeah, 100% lifestyle. You have to have that work balance lifestyle, and that can mean working half a day, which is 12 hours. That could mean
Right. Which 12 hours do you
yeah,
want for
which
that
hours you
matter?
want to work. But that means go home after that. There's nothing wrong with working 12 hours. I mean, Scott, you and I do it probably every day.
Yeah.
There's nothing
We
wrong
do
with that.
do a lot of them
Yeah,
for
right.
sure.
There's nothing wrong with doing that, but there's also nothing wrong with just going, you know what? I need to get out of here. I need to take a break. I need to take have just a mental break, write some things down, get them out of my mind so I could focus on helping growing the business. Because when you're in it, you're probably not helping growing the business.
Yeah.
I always tell
When
people,
you're so entangled, for sure.
yeah, you're just so in it and you're just so head down, butt up. You're just like, you don't understand, like, why isn't this working? Well, how about take a break, take a day off? That's kind of a weird concept. Take a day off and just relax
Yeah, very
and,
true.
and think, or just be with your family. That's even better.
So, how do people get a hold of you at the sales and marketing department?
Well, pretty easy. The TSAMD, so the TSAMD.com. That's one easy way. Me personally, I guess it's okay to get my cell phone number out here, huh, Scott?
Sure.
So my personal cell phone is 424-200-2748. I'm always available. If I'm not available by phone, Scott, text me. As,
That's
as you
right.
well as you well know, I'm a much better texter sometimes because I am in appointments quite often, um, or doing things like this. Um, but yeah, that's probably the easiest way for sure.
Awesome. How about one last quick word of wisdom?
Wow. Um, you know, these are always odd when you talk about yourself and you talk about your company, right? But when I say I love what I do, the reason why I called it the sales and marketing department, because everybody asked me, why did you call it that? I go, well, do you have any question on what I do? And they said, no. I said, keep it easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, keep it easy on purpose because I don't, yes, we go by TSAMD. Yes, we do go by TSAMD just for the sake of our emails because the sales and marketing department emails about that long. And
Yeah, exactly.
so we shrunk it a little. But I guess my departing statement is just be real, and I mean be real in here in your heart. Be real here with yourself. Be real here with your customers, with the people that you want to have a relation with, not a transaction with. And I think that just goes such a long way, Scott. I can't even, I've dealt with thousands of people. I've had 2,500 sales reps at one time. I've had many, many sales and marketing experiences. As you know, I know some pretty famous people. It's still here. It all comes back to here. That heart and soul of what you do and who you are will reflect in your business every single time.
Awesome. Rick, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate you, man. I'll talk to you later.
And thank you all for joining us here at Champions of Inspiration. We'll see you again next week. God bless. Have a fabulous week. See you soon.